Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Willy Wonka Fibers podcast. My name is Anne, and this is a podcast about my knitting and spinning and dyeing. You can find me on the web at my website, which is www.woolywonkafiber.com. I also have a Ravelry group, which is under Willy Wonka Fibers. If you do a quick search in groups for that, you will find the group and all the threads there. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook as Willy Wonka Fibers. And you can get in touch with me via social media. There's also a contact me button up in the top bar of the website, and you can always send me a private message on Ravelry. My username on Ravelry is Bunny Spinner. So I think that's all the places you can find me out there on the web. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you find a reason to come back and visit with me. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I've got a bunch of different subscribers in different places. The podcast can be found on iTunes as well as YouTube and also on Podbean, depending on where you like to subscribe to things. So thank you very much if you've chosen to spend some time with me. I know there are a ton of podcasts out there, and hopefully you'll find this one fun and enjoyable. So a couple of quick announcements. The next 6 months, whew, let's hope not, next 6 weeks are going to be really busy travel ones for me. And so I wanted to give you guys a heads up on some places that I will be and ways that you can meet me in person if you're so inclined. This weekend, I guess I should say today is Monday, March 28th. And I'm recording mid-morning. This coming weekend, which will encompass March 31st and then April 1st, I will be vending at the Interweave Yarn Fest, which is in Loveland, Colorado, just north of Denver. I will be there in the same booth spot I was in last year, which I believe is 601. It's a fairly small vendor hall in the marketplace, so it's not like you would be wandering for hours trying to find me, but I will put that information in the show notes. So I will be there this weekend. If you're in the area, want to swing on by, please feel free to do that. Come by the booth and say hi. I would love to meet some of you in person if I haven't already. The following weekend, which is going to be April 9th, Saturday, April 9th, I will be teaching a class at the Yarn Store at Nob Hill, which is down in Albuquerque. There's information on the class at their website. Again, I will link to that, so you'll have that opportunity if you've been wanting to take a class with me. I'll be doing my color theory class there. Then the following weekend, which is April 15th, 16th, 17th, which is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday combo. I will be on the East Coast in Maryland. On Friday night, I will be doing a meet and greet book signing at Knit Locally, which is in Boyds, Maryland. And then I will be teaching a class on Saturday at that same location. And then Sunday morning, I will be doing a trunk show book signing meet and greet at Black Sheep Yarn Shop, which is in Timonium, and I will be there doing that in the morning, and then directly following that I will also be teaching a class. Again, I'll put all that information in the show notes, so if you're an East Coaster, this is probably the only time that I will be attending yarn stores, doing classes, teaching, etc. this spring. There may be a fall date, but it's very, very up in the air. So, you know, if you're in the area and you would like to come out and meet me in person, that is your chance. So after that little whirlwind, I'm home for one whole weekend. And then my husband and I are going to pop to California for a family wedding. And then he and I are ships passing in the night. I'm home from Interweave Yarn Fest next Sunday, and he leaves Monday for a week, and then he gets in on Friday, and then I'm going to Albuquerque on Saturday, and then I believe he's out on Tuesday the following week. No, I'm sorry. Then I'm out Wednesday the following week to go to the East Coast. I'm gone. It's crazy. I don't think the two of us are going to be in our house together for more than like 12 hours, 18 hours at a stretch for the entire month of April. So I will be glad when May comes. And while, you know, it's always fun to travel and it's fun to go hang out with folks, it's nice to be home. It is. So with that said, our anniversary was this past weekend, and we both agreed that we were just going to have a really, really quiet weekend at home, kind of homebody it, hole up. We got some fun things to cook. One of the things we like to do for events, anniversaries and birthdays, is to pick a recipe that we haven't tried before but sounds good, and then do something new and different with that. So this time around, we actually did kind of almost like a Japanese hot pot, where you make a broth that's seasoned with ginger and green onions, and you kind of let that steep all day long, and then you use that to put thin slices of meat and vegetables in to cook. And it was actually really good. We had a nice time, and you know, it's just nice to sit around and talk, and we talked about books we're reading, just different things. It was really nice. It was a very nice, quiet weekend. Um, so with that said, I actually have gotten a lot of knitting done in the last 2 weeks. Last time, I think I had told you guys I was working on a project for Jen of Spirit Trail Fiberworks, and that was that really gorgeous kind of bright pink merino silk and cashmere fingering weight she had sent me. So that piece is finished. The sample is done. I actually shot photographs of it this week, so that's completely off my needles. So that's one finished object, which I can't show you yet, but it will be releasing in early April. The pattern will be releasing in early April, and it's fun. I really think it came out great, and hopefully it will do really well in her booth at Maryland Sheep and Wool, where if you are planning on attending, you can swing through and see it live and in person, the sample live and in person. Jen will also have coupon codes for that design in her booth, where you can, if you purchase the yarn, get a deal on the pattern. So that's a good incentive. I also finished up a pair of socks. These were the ones that had been languishing on my needles since January. The yarn is from Desert Vista Dye Works. I got it kind of stuck together, but there's the label. And it's on the Viso sock base, which is 75% merino, 25% nylon with 462 yards per skein. It's a self-striping colorway called Zombody. It's cold outside. There we go. There's a whole line, Desert Vista Dye Works has a whole line of Zombody colorways that all have a sort of variegated hand paint stripe section that's kind of zombie colors. It's greens and body part colors. Anyway, I have finished these. They were knit on my usual US size ones, the 2.25 millimeters, 64 stitches around, a 2x2 rib at the top. I did do an afterthought heel on these. I was mostly working on them in places where I didn't want to fuss with any other heel. I just stuck in scrap yarn and kept on going. And then a rounded Kitchener toe here at the end. That gives you a better idea, I think, of the colorway. It's kind of springy in a way, that kind of ice blue. And it has turned colder here again. It's down in the 20s again at night, even though when I finished these up, we were having very warm temperatures where I think we had 2 days in a row where it hit 70, which is very warm for us in March, and does not bode well for fire season. Anyway, so these are done and they are going into my box of socks for the Box O Socks knit along that Kristen at Vine and the Yarngasm podcast is hosting this year. So this is actually pair number 3. And I did actually get a box to put said socks in. I think this will be plenty big. So I have those to add. The other 2 pairs are both self-striping that are for me, that are right now they're on tour for shop samples, but they're my Santa Fe socks and no, I can't remember what the other one is. Another self-striping. Anyway, those are all going in there. The Box O Socks knit along runs through the end of the year. It's January 1st through December 31st of 2016. And it's supposed to be a selfish knit along. So while I've knit other socks, these are ones that are going to be ones I keep for myself. So I'm going to shoot for the 12 pairs, which is the minimum number. And if I wind up making more than that, that's a bonus. It's totally good. I kind of got out of knitting socks for a while. I'm not really sure why, because they're a great portable project and they're fun and they're mindless, but they're also really useful. So now all I want to do is knit socks, because apparently that's how I roll. So that is one of the finished objects for this go round. I was really glad to get those finished up. I don't like half knit projects. I'm not somebody who's really good at having a whole bunch of works in progress that sit and float and don't get worked on. I'm much more put it on the needles, knit it, get it off the needles kind of project knitter. I like the process, absolutely, but I like to have a finished thing finished. And then the other project that I finished up over the last 2 weeks was my hand spun sea stripes shawl. Say that 3 times fast. The original yarn was a hand spun that I spun up at the end of last year, I think it was. That was a custom blend roving gradient pack from Hilltop Cloud, and it was merino, Shetland, and flax. Really fun spin. It spun up great in kind of woodsy tones. The pattern, which I'll link that information in the show notes as well, is by Kirsten Kapoor. It was originally written for a self-striping with like long color blocks. So it lent itself perfectly to a gradient. And the colorway is called Lake House. And here it is. So you can see it's a gorgeous, super long crescent shape. The top section, where you start here at the back neck, is garter, and then it's got this gorgeous lace border on it. It is finished off at the very bottom with a crochet edging. And I have to say I did okay with the crochet edging, but the pattern calls for 2 more rows of these loops added on. And that was not going to happen. I don't like crochet that much. I just don't. There it is. Okay, I said it out loud. I like how it looks, and I think it's a wonderful, pretty edge that really complements the rest of the lace, but I don't like doing it. So it just got one. I will say that, so I hadn't really looked at the chart. The lace pattern is both charted and written in the pattern, but I hadn't really looked at the chart, and it does have true lace rows, meaning you knit on both sides on, I believe it's 3 rows of each repeat. This is one repeat from here to here. And that wasn't a bad thing. Wasn't something that made it a bad experience at all. It's just, it was not as autopilot because I needed to refer to the chart on both right side and wrong side rows. For those rows, you're not just purling back or just knitting back. You actually have to do some stitch manipulation on those rows. So I would consider it more of an intermediate project. I don't think it's a good beginner lace project, but it's a great way to learn that technique about lace knitting, actually doing decreases and stitch manipulation on the wrong side of your project if you've never done it before, because there's not that much of it. It's enough that you have to think about it, but it's not so much that you think, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get through these. I think it's a total of 6 rows. So anyway, a gorgeous, gorgeous, easy to wear shape. It works both as kind of a wear in the front version, like that. Stand up a little bit so you can see it. I mean, it's plenty long. And it also works great just around your shoulders like that. So, I mean, it's a really nice wide crescent shape. Can I get that to lay flat? It's stuck to my sweater. There we go. And I think it would be beautiful over like a tweedy, more wintry type dress, or if you had a tweed skirt, I think it would be gorgeous with that as well. Really fun knit. As with every pattern I've ever knit of Kirsten's, I absolutely love knitting them. They're fun. They're like the perfect sweet spot of interesting, but not too challenging, that you can, do some of it. You can certainly do the garter stitch section as a TV project, and then have the lace for a time that you have a little bit more quiet. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to keep this or not. I think that the colors, while I love them to work with them and look at them, I think that the kind of golden brown section is not the best color for me. And my great aunt who taught me to knit, she will be 95 next month. She still knits. She's in an assisted living facility, and they do a kind of community, not a raffle, auction, that's the word I'm looking for, in April every year. And in the last couple of years, I've sent her some shawls, and they've done really, really well. Like, they've auctioned them off for several $100s. And all of the proceeds go to the activities fund for the residents. And I feel like she's given me so much joy in my life. If my sending a shawl that can pay for her and her friends to go to dinner or the movie or rent movies, they do like movie and pizza night, it's totally worth it. So I may forward this one on to her. I have a couple other things that may go. And, honestly, she may enjoy this for herself, and I will probably include a little note that just says, if you'd like to keep this for you, please do. She's very tall. She's 5'10", and she has steel gray hair that's cut in a really cute little page boy. This is a long enough shawl that she could easily wear it with a winter coat or something like that. So anyway, on the fence, probably won't keep it for myself, but definitely know it will go to a well-loved end point. And it was a fun project. So that was my March project for the hand spun knit along that I'm hosting on my group. And I will go through and break everything up in the show notes this week, so that I have a list of all of the knit alongs, because there's a bunch of them that I'm participating in, and I've got a new one to announce as well, which I will do a little bit later in the show. So that's all my finished objects. Pretty good haul for 2 weeks. So let's see, everything that's on my needles now. So I started a new design project that will be part of a fall design collection. This is the first of 4 patterns that I'm designing for it, and so I'm not going to show you the work in progress, the design, but I will show you the yarn, which I am very happy to be working with. This is the Woolen Rabbit, my friend Kim, who's an indie dyer in New Hampshire. It is her pearl sock yarn, which is 80% merino and 20% nylon. It's a 400-yard skein, 100 grams. Kim does, if you're not familiar with her aesthetic, she does gorgeous colors in this fall palette. Pumpkin oranges, golds, nut browns. This particular one is corn silk, and it's this gorgeous sort of bronzy brown color with some yellow undertones. It's just really, really pretty for fall. So I started a project with that. Just about half finished it. I'm going to be working on that as my Knit in the Hotel project in my room at night while I'm at Yarn Fest this upcoming weekend. So I'm working away on that. I also have been working on a Drachenfels shawl, and I think I showed you guys the yarn, but I don't think I've showed the work in progress yet. So this is for another knit along. It's a Harry Potter knit along, and I'm going to be, I think, maybe quadruple dipping on this one with some knit alongs. So originally I cast this on for the Harry Potter knit along that's being hosted by Katie of Inside Number 23 podcast, and that knit along is going to run through April, through the end of April. And I wanted to do a shawl that was based on dragons, and I had some wonderful images of these sea dragons that I really spoke to me in terms of the colorways. So the colors that I'm using are Serpent, Tangerine, and Sea Dragon. And these are all Willy Wonka Fibers Carragwin sock that I dyed up specifically for this project. This actually is a new colorway. It's a speckle dye, and it will be available in the shop in April when I'm back from Yarn Fest. So right now I am making good progress on this. I have knit what is section 1 and 2, and then I have started on the middle section, that's the garter stitch stripes. And so I have one row you can just see there at the bottom. That's the Sea Dragon colorway. It's one garter stitch stripe. The rest are the Serpent and Tangerine stripes. And so there's another set of the garter stitch stripes that I need to finish, and then I'll be on to the final section, which is mostly garter stitch in that colorway. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be quite fun. And beginning in April, actually beginning Friday, April 1st, Jilly, who is Vegan Jilly on Ravelry and Instagram, and who is the host of the Knitting Broomstick podcast, she's going to be hosting a Harry Potter knit along as well. And you can use works in progress for that. And so I know I won't have this done by Friday. So I'm going to double dip and use this project as well for her knit along. If I finish this up really fast and really early, I may cast on a pair of Harry Potter type socks, but we'll see how far I go. And I did want to show you guys this really adorable project keeper that my friend Joy made me. She knows that I love all things bunny. Let's see if I can get that to focus. It's got this little leaping bunny on it. Super cute. So I'm using that to help me keep track of my garter stripe rows on this project. This is a great knit. I mean, there's like 2,000 projects, I think, on Ravelry. So, 2,000 people can't all be wrong. Um, it's not a hard knit and by any means. It's fun. About the time you get bored doing just garter stitch, you get to toss in some slip stitch or some stripes or something with some different colors. So my goal is just to have this finished by the end of April so that it will count for both the Inside 23, number 23 knit along, as well as the Knitting Broomsticks Harry Potter knit along. Those are both Harry Potter knit alongs. I will recommend to you the fact that Jilly has a whole bunch of ongoing knit alongs. There's a sweater one. She's going to be doing a themed knit along / read along. So April is Harry Potter. I think May is Jane Austen, and there's a Doctor Who month in there somewhere. So if you are into themed sort of fandom type cows, hit her up. She's the place to go. Her podcast is a delight. She is a ton of fun. I laugh every time I listen to it. She's got a great sense of humor and really fun energy. And she's definitely on the Knit All the Things track, which apparently we all are this year. Okay, and then the last thing is a new project that I just cast on. It's also, it's not officially a knit along, it's a make along. This is being hosted by Jenny of Tiny Paper Foxes, which is another great, relatively new podcast. Jenny is like the Zen master. She's got just such a soothing presentation on her podcast. I love it. Anyway, she is hosting several make-alongs, and one of the make-alongs that she's doing was to sort of identify a need for a wardrobe staple, whatever your definition of that is, and then make it, whether you sew it or knit or crochet it. And this was really timely for me because, I work at home and I tend to knit a lot of garments that are samples. They disappear to the magazine or whatever for 6 months. Only recently has the magazine even been asking the designers to do samples in sizes that like adult humans can wear. I mean, there's not that many adult women who wear a size 32. I know there are some. They are very tiny people. I am not a very tiny person, so getting back a sample that's knit for a size 32 body is not something I was ever going to be able to put into my wardrobe. And so I have a few things that I've knit, and I have this one sweater in particular that I adore. The color looks great on me. I always get compliments, but it's 8 years old and I have worn it to death. And every time I put it on, my husband says, it's really, you should replace that. So this was a really great opportunity for me to take a look at my wardrobe and look at what I wear when I go to shows, when I go to teach, when I do things outside the house that aren't involving the dye pots, and that's like a sweats and fleece pullover kind of moment, t-shirt with dye stains already on it. So what I decided I was going to do was going to combine both a stash busting project as well as something that was going to kind of fill a hole in my wardrobe. And one of the things that I've really realized is sort of how I wear clothes around our house. We have a 2-level house, and the lower level, which is where my office is kind of built into the side of a rock wall. And so it's great in the summer because it's always 65 degrees down here. The rest of the year, though, while it is heated down here, if I'm not running the fireplace, if I don't have a fire built down here, it's 62 to 65 degrees. I mean, it's chilly to sit down here and do computer work. And so I tend to wear things that are a lot of layers. So one of the things that I want to add to my wardrobe this year is a nicer vest that I can wear as a layer over either a t-shirt or over a really fine gauge pullover, either crew neck or turtleneck type sweater. But I went into Stash, ran through my Ravelry stash of sweater lots to see what I had. And I have had a sweater lot of, I can't even tell you how long it's been in Stash, but it's been a while. It's Elizabeth Lavold's Silky Wool, which, you know, was kind of everywhere for a while. It's in a great neutral, kind of a stone gray. It's a little bit darker than this. It's just past what I would consider a mid-range gray. And it's got all those great little sort of natural heathery flecks of the silk. It's a 50-50 silk merino blend. So I had enough for a sweater quantity, and then I went through and I looked in my Ravelry queue to see what I had queued up, and I knew I didn't want anything that was like a commando project that I was going to be knitting on for 101 days. So what I wound up picking is a raglan type cardigan, very simple with just some textured stitch patterning along the what would be the yoke basically. So the pattern is called Heathered, and it's by Melissa Shashwari. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm going to link it in the project notes so you can find it. So there's a picture of it. Really, really basic, nothing crazy. But I really liked how the pattern was written because there's a lot of very thoughtful detail in it in terms of finishing and in terms of working the textured stitches up here at the yoke. And so it seemed like it would be a perfect match. Got gauge, no issues at all on that. And so I cast that on this weekend, and I don't have a ton done on it, and this is not like a huge deadline type project, but so here's the back yoke. Let's see if I can get, there we go. You can see there's just a really simple sort of textured knit purl combination there on the back. That was the back yoke, so here's how it fits around you. This is the front, and there's that same textured detail on the front as well. The sleeves are just plain stockinette. So I'm going to work on this. I kind of went back and forth about sizing on this because the sizes jump from 34 to 38, and I'm kind of right in between. And so I thought I would do most of the increases. Since it's knit from the top down, I can pop it on and see how big it is around the shoulders, make sure it's not too big. I don't want it to be super trim because I'm thinking, okay, I want it to use it as a layering piece. So if it's a little bit on the boxier side, I'm okay with that. I just have concerns if the 38 is too big, if it's too deep in the raglan shaping here. I may take out a couple of rows and fudge the rest of the numbers. Super cute. She gives you the option to put pockets or not. You can do waist shaping, that's written in here. And she's got some nice, like I said, some nice little detail bits and bobs. She talks about finishing the button band with a little piece of grosgrain ribbon. And I like that. I like that kind of more tailored, finished look to something that I'm going to wear most likely with either nice black pants, or I have a couple long black skirts that I'll potentially wear it with. But I also think it's a casual enough project that I could always wear it with jeans if I wanted to. You know, I tend to find that it's not good to just toss something on, because then I wind up running into my studio and doing a quick couple of dye baths, and then the thing that was nice now has dye spots on it. So I try to keep the wardrobe separated between things I would wear to the dye studio and things I would not wear to the dye studio. So anyway, this particular make along is running from now. It started mid-March and it runs for 2 months, so it'll run through mid-May. So I think I can probably get the this cardigan finished, and it will be a nice addition to the wardrobe that I will have for the next couple of cooler months. We don't usually get hot weather here until June. Tends to be our really stinky hot month. In theory, July and August are our monsoon seasons here, where we are supposed to get afternoon thunderstorms, which are wonderful and deliciously cool off the very warm air. But the last 5 years, we've been in a drought, so we have not really had that in July and August. But anyway, it'll get me bridged over into fall as well. So no specific goals or anything on that. I'm just going to work on it and chip away at it and try to get it done the next 2 months. The last thing, it's just an ongoing project, is the sock yarn scrap blanket that I'm working on. So I finished up 8 more blocks. And if you had tuned in last time, I'm not stitching these together as I go. I want to lay the colors out when I'm in theory done, whenever that is. So I've just been knitting squares and sticking them in a Ziploc bag. These two are both on my Caradwin sock. The green is Ophelia, and the red is Brick. This is a Koigu KPPPM colorway. Just a scrap that I had. It doesn't have, they don't really name colorways, they just give them numbers. And this is a scrap of the glitter base sock yarn from Gnome Acres. Don't know the colorway on that one, but you can see the glitter. That's kind of fun. So I have those finished, and then I have one more Caradwin. That's Heart's Ease. Oh, this is another one. This is from the Earth Transitional Pack. It's one of the colorways. It's a little less green. That's probably closer to reality in terms of color. Sorry about that. My husband had called. He was trying to coordinate flight times in and out. Remember the crazy I talked about at the beginning? This was like part 17 of the crazy. So I just needed to grab that. He had sent me a email earlier. Anyway, sock yarn blanket squares. These are both mini skeins that Laura, who is Fluffy K or Fluffy Kira, the host of At the Corner of Knit and Tea podcast, she sent me these. This is a Dream in Color colorway. And I can't remember what this one is, Laura. I know you'll know, but sort of stripy, but very muted. This was I like this one. Bear Wool, I think, is the brand name of that one. So anyway, I have those. I have a little stack going so far, what I've got. And I'm just trying to knit 4 or so of those a week as the moment takes me. So I think that's everything that I'm working on in terms of knitting. Let's go on to fiber. Finished spins. So this actually was done at my previous podcast, but I didn't have it with me. So I wanted to show this one to you guys. This is part of my Spin the Bin challenge. So this is a stash from Deep Stash. This is from one of my favorite dyers, Funky Carolina, who is no longer dyeing fiber anymore. It's a mixed BFL, mixed Blueface Leicester base, and the colorway is Adler. How about there? That's pretty close. It's very dark. It's a very dark, moody, broody, dark green, a little bit of chestnut brown, some plum in there as well. So I spun this up as a 2-ply. It came out to about a DK weight. I tried very hard, to, even though it's comb top, to keep it more woolen so it's nice and squishy and fluffy. Um, I don't have a specific plan for this. I think it would make a great pair of mittens, but it's going to go in stash for a while. So I have that one done from the Spin the Bin. That's pretty accurate. Gorgeous colorway, as all I have not met a colorway of Carrie's that I have not loved. So so that was actually from the last 2 weeks. Now I've been on this larger lot spin kick recently. So the first thing I spun this time around, it's a combo spin that I did for a challenge. It's actually in 2 groups. The 16 in 2016 spinners group, the March challenge was to do a combo spin where you took 2 colorways and you did something to combine them. And then there was a similar challenge that was in the Three Waters Farm group. So the fiber for this is Three Waters Farm. It's on Finn wool, which is one of my favorites to spin. It's a nice middle range wool. It's bouncy. It's not as soft as merino, but it's not as sleek as BFL. It's kind of somewhere in the middle of those two. I like it. I get really good yardage with it, so that's always a good thing. So I had 2 colorways. One was a hand paint called Hidden Inside. It was cinnamon brown, a kind of antique red, little pops of a sort of acid green. And then the other 4 ounces was a tonal dye, so a mostly solid, called Burnt Sienna. That was a dark cinnamon spice brown colorway. So for both of the singles, I spun 4 ounces of each separately onto separate bobbins. And for the hand paint, I split it lengthwise into really long skinny strips because I wanted to have color runs that weren't super long. And then I just spun the tonal dye, the Burnt Sienna, basically end to end. I think I split it in half just for ease of like manipulating the fibers. And so then I applied the 2 colors together and I came up with a 2-ply fingering weight. Consider it a light fingering weight. It's 847 yards in those 8 ounces. And I think it came out so great. It's got a sort of overall fall color palette feel to it. That's pretty close for colors. But then you can see it's got these great little bits and bobs of that acid green throughout. I was really happy with how this came out, and I actually have 2 other braids in my Spin the Bin set that I want to do the same way that I think will be gorgeous, that are reds. So this is earmarked for a shawl, and I will talk about that project after I'm done the spinning section, because it's a knit along as well that's going to be kicking off the 1st of April. And I'm co-hosting that. So I want to give you guys all the details on that, and then you can see how that matches up. So that's what this is. This is getting wound today when I'm done chatting with y'all. Really excited about that. I think that's going to be great. The next project that I spun up was another 8 ounces, and I need a little palette cleanser, I think, to like a quickie spin at some point. So I got a call about a week ago, a little less than a week ago, from Ann Marrow, who's the editor at Spinoff, and she and I have worked together on various and sundry projects over the last several years. Super nice. And she said that they were looking for a kind of fill-in project, and did I have any ideas for a project that they could publish in the fall knit and spin issue of Spinoff. And so we got chatting, and I asked her, you know, kind of what she was looking for, and sent her a sketch, worked up some details on it, and So the project that I'm going to be working on, and I did clear this with her, a lot of times the magazines don't want you sharing stuff, but she said this was fine to talk about. I am going to be doing a gradient project for them. And so I dyed up two braids of merino silk, an 80/20 merino silk blend, um, that are in the Ruby Mountains colorway. And I have one of the superwash, regular superwash sock yarn, 5 packs available in that colorway, but I wanted to do it as a hand spun because I think the colors are so pretty. And so I just finished spinning these. I finished plying them this weekend. It's a 2-ply yarn, fingering weight. And I basically took each of the gradients and I spun them starting at one end all the way down to the other for the singles, and then I plied so that the colors are all lined up. And it's pretty straightforward for a gradient. But at any rate, 817 yards and about, it's just a hair over 7 ounces. And so those are the colors. It's not as gray as that. It's a very purple. Let's see if I can get it to read a little better for you guys. Our light's funny. I think we've got a front coming in. Let's see if that does any better. Nope, still really gray. I will put a link to my project page so that you can see the colors. But this is so squishy. It's yeah. It's like its own little creature. It is so soft and wonderful. So I'm going to be working up a design for this. So this is going on the needles this week as well. This will also go on to the ball winder once I'm done chatting with you guys. So look for that project. That'll be out again fall of 2016 in the spin-off Knit and Spin issue. So I have a lot of yardage that I've spun. I mean, total that's about 2,000 plied yards right there. I'm feeling a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Not pressured really, because it's March. I got all year to work on my Spin the Bin project, but I have not really touched it this month, and I don't like to leave stuff like that. If I'm working on a challenge, I like to chip away at it. So this month I've got one thing that I want to spin that'll go on the wheel next, and then I'm going to get back to the bin, and I'm going to cut myself off from any of the nice, pretty, shiny things that show up at the house, one of which I will show you in a minute, and just work on Spin the Bin projects for a little bit till I feel like I can kind of get myself caught up. You know, part of it is that I like to work with fingering weight yarn, and that takes a lot longer to spin than worsted or chunky weight. It does. That's the reality of the situation. So since I tend to work with my hand spun and I tend to like to work with fingering weight, I tend to kind of have to spin fingering weight because that's what I like to work with. So I fully accept that and I understand that, but you know, I do want to get that challenge. I want to complete that challenge project this year. So if you're unfamiliar with that particular challenge, at the beginning of 2016, I pulled a bunch of yarns or fiber from Stash, and I committed to spinning through that bin collection over the course of 2016. And I'm not that far into it. I think I pulled 120 ounces to spin, and I think I've spun 24 ounces of the 120, so I'm like a fifth done, and we're a quarter of the way through the year. So it's not like I'm ignoring it completely, but I haven't worked on it this month, and I really would like to get back to that. So that said, I had one fiber club arrive this past weekend. I think it came this last Friday. And so I know I've mentioned this before, but this is the Fat Cat Knits Fiber Club. Ginny sends out her club about every 6 weeks as opposed to every month. So you get it like every other month-ish. And this is her early 2016 club, and the theme is Undersea Life. This is the first installment in it that just came for March. I opted for the luxury blend this go round. And so the fiber is 63% Blueface Leicester, 25% bamboo, and 12% nylon. It's really incredibly soft. The theme that she's doing for this set of three packages that we'll get, this being the first of the three, is Undersea Life. And the colorways that she sent, because the way that Ginny works her clubs is she sends you two 2.5-ounce braids that you can either spin separately or combine. The two colorways in this club kit were Cinnamon Clownfish and Sea Anemone. Anemone. I think I'm saying that right. Anyway, there's the label to it. And the fiber content. And here are the braids. This one, that's actually pretty close. And this one. So here they are together. Super bright. But I have seen, she's got some really, really, really speedy spinners in her group. So there's some folks who have already spun these up. I mean, I've had them like 4 days, and I've looked at them, and some folks already have yarn. That is not me. So I'm really torn about how to spin these because I like them together. That just gives you an idea of how the colors would live together. They're all so bright, and there's kind of a thematic yellow, kind of bright yellow running through those. So I think that they would be gorgeous spun together. But because I think this would be a great base for socks, I'm kind of wondering if I want to do sets of stripes. So one stripe of that, or 2 to 4 rounds of this, 2 to 4 rounds of that, and then I'd switch the heel and toe colors so they'd be matching but not super twinny. I don't know. These are bright shinies that are going to marinate for a while, so I have time to think about what I want to do with them. And maybe by then, all the other speedy people will have theirs spun up, and I can say, oh, I just like how that looks. That's what I'm going to do. So that'll give me something to play with at some point. The next thing going on my wheel, which I'm going to take with me to Yarn Fest because I like to spin in the evenings. This is the March colorway that I did for the Willy Wonka Fibers Art Gallery Fiber Club. And it's a blended roving. It's 80% merino and 20% bamboo. And the inspiration for the colorway is the Impressionist painting A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jatte by Georges Seurat. And you may know the painting because it's what was used as the sort of opening and closing backdrop for Afternoon in the Park with George. That was a Broadway musical. It's I think 1873, 1870s, and it's one of the pointillistic paintings where there's a sunlight shadow contrast and there's lots of little teeny tiny dots of paint that look like a color when you step back from the painting, but when you step close to it, it's got all of those colors in there working together. I really like this blend. I've ordered different colorways, but similar a similar blend mix from this mill before. And it's got, I think, just some fun spring colors. It's got that kind of iris purple and daffodil yellow and little bits of pink, like tulipy pinks. And the way this mill works is that they, because they're in the UK, they send me amounts in grams as opposed to ounces. So even though I divide things up in ounces for my customers, the fiber comes as 1,000 grams in a package or whatever I've ordered. They usually divide them up into 1,000-gram increments, just so they travel well. So at the end of each of those, I usually have a 2.5-ounce amount that's left over that I can't send out. And so I keep 5 ounces for myself usually. and whatever else I have extra, but I allot 5 ounces to myself. So I have two little clusters this size. They're each 2.5 ounces as well. So I have 5 ounces of this I'm going to spin. And again, it's going to get spun fairly fine because I think it would be gorgeous as a spring shawl. I love the colors in it. I would wear these. These are kind of my slightly muted colors. They won't be exactly pastel by the time you spin them. It'll concentrate the color down. But I'm anxious to see how that looks up. So that is my spin that will go on the wheel for this week. Just check my show notes, make sure I covered everything. Yes, go me. Okay, so that's kind of all of the active, current, going on stuff. And so I wanted to kind of segue into this other spinning related thing that leads us to our knit along announcement. So if you've watched the podcast before, especially around the turn of the year, the first one I did, I talked about this personal challenge that I'm doing called 52 spins in 52 weeks. And so basically every week I'm trying to get a spin finished. I'm kind of handicapping myself apparently with these monster 8-ounce spins because in my head I had budgeted 4 ounces was a spin. But I think if it's one skein, you kind of got to count it as one spin. Anyway, I am keeping up with that so far. This is week 13 and I have 13 spins finished. And the person who inspired me and who I had been stalking, you know, in a quiet, non-threatening way for a while was Laura, who is Fluffy K or Fluffy Kira, depending on where you find her. And she has a Ravelry group that is associated with her podcast called At the Corner of Knit and Tea. And part of the reason that I have loved following Laura is because I think she and I are kindred spirits, you know, sisters from different mothers kind of thing. I think we both approach things in a very similar way. And it is she who has been doing the 52 spins in 52 weeks. And when I was watching all of her gorgeous handspun pop up onto her Instagram feed, and if you follow her podcast, you know that she has a brand new skein of handspun every week to show off. Some of which she works with, some of which she puts in her online Etsy shop, the Stash Buckler. I don't know. It just spoke to me. It was a chord. So I had been watching her podcast, and several weeks ago she had mentioned that she wanted to do a knit along, and if viewers had some ideas to toss those out, she was kind of open to things. And I had been thinking about doing a spring accessory along because I thought that would be fun. And so I got in touch with Laura and talked to her about, you know, some options, and we decided that we're going to host a joint knit along. And when I say knit along, it can be crochet along as well. Anything that you're crafting the item. And it's going to kick off on Friday, April 1st. And so I will list all of the specs and link to both her Ravelry forum thread and my Ravelry forum thread on this. But it's going to be a shawl along. And the deal is you can knit any shawl you want or crochet any shawl you want, any pattern. You can use any yarn, anything that makes you happy. If it's a shawl, fair game. You can use works in progress as long as they're no more than 25% finished. We will have a chatter thread in both Laura's group and my group. And there will be a finished objects thread where you can post your one post that's your finished object. Now, obviously, you could, if you crank through more than one finished object, you can have multiple posts, but one project, one post, so you get locked in for prizes. So we're going to be hosting this, like I said, starting beginning Friday, this Friday, April 1st, and it's going to run through the end of May. So you've got 2 months to work on your shawl. We're going to sweeten the pot a little bit. If you decide to use one of my shawl patterns, you can use a coupon code, which I will also post in the show notes, that gets you 30% off on any shawl pattern for those 2 months, for April and May. And if you then use the pattern, make the shawl, post it in the finished objects thread, you'll have your normal chance of winning a prize because you've posted your finished object, but you'll also get entered into a second drawing that will be a different prize for folks who have knit my shawl patterns. So if you are in my shawl club, fair game. You know, you guys got shawl patterns and yarn like matched up. You are ready to rock and roll. Just saying. If you haven't cast on the March shawl, now would be a great time. You could just slide on over and do that. You can also double dip into any other knit along that allows it. Meaning, if you wanted to do a handspun shawl, you can dip into the handspun knit along 2016 knit along that I'm hosting, plus this shawl cal. If you're doing something that's Harry Potter themed and you want to hook up with either Inside Number 23's Harry Potter knit along or Jilly's The Knitting Broomsticks Harry Potter knit along and our shawl along, totally fair game. So you guys have a ton of options in terms of winning prizes, in terms of getting a great project finished for spring. I think this is brilliant. I am so excited about this. And Laura and I are going to be knitting along with you guys. I know she's got some ideas for things picked out. She may be doing a handspun version of one of my patterns. We'll see. I know she's got two options, so it'll come down to, as always, a time thing. So to let you guys know what I'm planning on kicking off with, I'm going to be using this handspun because this will be my April handspun knit along project. And I'm going to be knitting up, it's actually a very straightforward shawl, but it is a bigger piece. It takes 725-ish yards. The pattern is by Laura Aylor, and it's called Gunner's Cove. I'll show you a picture. It's a 4-pay pattern, so I don't want to give a ton of details away, but it's just a nice basic pattern with a textured stitch and a pretty little ruffled edge. And I think it would be a great fall accessory out of that colorway. So that's what I'm going to be casting on April 1st and working on along with you guys. I'm really excited. There's some information at kind of a high level about the prizes. Laura and I have not completely hashed all those out, but there will be a prize that'll be pulled from that FO thread. One prize will come directly from me, and then one prize will come from her. And then the prize that we'll pull for anybody who knits one of my patterns will be a combined prize. So it might be something like a project bag with stitch markers and some of her handspun, or some combination thereof. To be determined. We're still talking about that. But I hope that you'll join us. I think this will be a really fun knit along. We're looking forward to having folks join in. And it gives you a ton of leeway. You really can pick anything that suits your fancy, whether it's, you know, bright and crazy or something really intricate in a, you know, pale shell pink that's perfect for spring. Anything that makes you happy makes us happy. So I do hope that you will consider joining us for that. And like I said, I will wind up putting all of the information about where you can find the threads, more information about the dates, how to post your photos, all of that good stuff in the show notes, so you guys have that as kind of a one-stop reference. And I'll also include links to all of the other knit alongs that I've talked about that I'm participating in. That might be fun if you are interested, if you want to double dip, or, you know, give yourself a little bit more motivation to get a project finished and have some support and cheering from the sidelines from those other folks who are participating in whatever the knit along or make along might be. The one last thing I wanted to mention, and then I'll finish up because this is already on and on. I am going to move to a weekly-ish podcasting format going forward. So I'm going to try to record the Monday I am back from Interweave Yarn Fest. there will have to be a little bit more flexibility on my record date simply because with travel and everything else that I've got going on, I don't know for sure I'll be able to record every single Monday. But I'm going to try it because I think there's so much going on right now, and for the foreseeable future that I don't want to do an hour-long podcast that you guys got to slog through. I'd rather do half an hour, give you all the updates, move along, and talk with you the next week. So if there's going to be major shifts in that schedule, I certainly will let you all know. Certainly, if you're a subscriber, it doesn't really matter because you'll get that little information every time I've got a new edition coming out, a new episode coming out. But if you are sort of hit or miss or just like to pick them up, pick up episodes as you go, just be aware that I am going to try to move to every week, but that there's certainly going to be some times that that's not going to work out. And I may have to, record later in the week or skip a week entirely. I know for sure that week that I'm on travel to and from the East Coast, it's not going to happen, but I will do my best, and it'll give me a chance to come and visit with you all a little bit more often, and hopefully you will enjoy getting to hear from me a little bit more often as well. So until next time, thank you all so much for listening. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to you guys next week. Take care.